Hello everyone and welcome to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. Making a video today. This is another CAM video, but it has a different purpose. I've mentioned that the cams that you most often find are Singer top hat cams. If you didn't see the video, I did a video on these cams. These are for Singers. These cams, I have a box of cams here, and they go with the white 565 machine that I just recently purchased. Actually, I have two of them, and I'm going to show you why these cams are more difficult to come across. Whether they are rare or not is debatable, but they're hard to find, and I'm going to explain why. With Singer cams, they typically came in cardboard boxes that said Singer, and they're usually with a Singer sewing machine. But most people, when they see a top hat cam, they know it's for a Singer, right? They're easily identifiable. Well, the white company with this particular model, once we get into the 60s, there were a series of models actually where the white company was outsourcing production to Japan, which is great. That's fine. Well, they did that, and any of you who have a Japanese-made zigzag machine or a straight stitch, what we call Japanese clones, you've seen them under many labels because there was a ton of private labeling that went on for a lot of companies, department stores, and others distributors who wanted to sell machines, and they didn't have a factory. Now, the only other company that typically had their branding on the manual and the box would have been Sears Kenmore. But there are exceptions to this. Some of the Japanese clones, if it was a small production, maybe it was a very small department store chain, maybe they had 6 stores or something, I don't know. Sometimes the manual, it doesn't even always have a brand on it. You don't even know what brand. I mean, it might say Universal, it may just be a generic manual for that machine, because the Japanese were making the same model with a few color changes and, you know, knob changes for many different brands. At least the white has the white name here. So these are the cams that go with the 565. I have bought many of those turquoise, or actually many of the white zigzag sewing machines, and I've had a number of models that have the top hatch, which will take cams, and I never could find them. First of all, how do you know which cams? The Japanese would produce lots of accessories at this point in time. By the time we get in the 60s, they're making a lot of this stuff. It's not coming from China, it's coming from Japan. But here's the problem. Well, there are two problems. They changed the cams quite often, and I don't know why, because the machines themselves were in production for a number of years. But they would do this, and maybe they did it for the retailer. Maybe the retailer said, hey, give us something unique and special. So the white 500 series that take cams, at least the 565 model, takes these, and you'll know them because there is and I have all of them here, you have like a slate green, a pink, and a blue, and they come in a box. Now the box is two-toned, just like the machine, but notice it says decorative cams. Okay, cams for what? What brand? It doesn't say. Why? Because these same cams might have been used for another model under a different name by the same Japanese manufacturer. The problem, or the challenge you will find, is that there are lots of different brand names for these Japanese clones, and unfortunately many of them had unique to the manufacturer cam designs, right? So if it was Janome, they would have had some, Brother, Toyota, Marusen, Soryu, and there are some other companies that in Japan that made these. But don't forget, not only did every Japanese maker have its own cam design, unless they were sharing a generic cam from a third party, and they didn't label them, right? Because remember, this is a tin box. It was painted, and instead of paying for the screen printing of painting for every single brand name, they just called it decorative cam. So this same box could have been used for any number of Japanese sewing machines, but you might have had different cams. So a lot of times, if you guys, I don't know, have you gone looking on eBay or Etsy for places for cams. You got this machine, like, oh, it takes cams. I'd love to find them. Well, the first thing you got to do is make sure you get the right ones, because if you get cams that are not for that machine, they're not going to work. And unfortunately, most of the time, the seller doesn't know. They don't know what cams it takes, and if the seller, that's the seller of the machine. If you find the seller of the cams, they've rescued them from somewhere, some estate sale or maybe, or who knows where, and they want to sell them. But they'll just say cams goes to sewing machine, maybe 50s or 60s. That doesn't tell you very much. So this is why cams for these 1950s and 60s sewing machines are kind of tough to find. They are very challenging to find. I don't know that they were made in tiny numbers, but they're not easily identifiable. Some of the early Necky BU machines, like the BU Mira, the BU Nova, the BU Mira and the BU Nora Necky machines, they have cams that you can isolate. You can pull up, if you got the machine, pull it up what they look like, and you can try to get an image. So what do? If you have a machine and you want the cams, you can put in the name of the machine and look for an image search. That's your best bet on Google, for example. But it's still tough, because put in the machine, the cams may be out there, but the owner or the person who's selling them may not know that they have the cams to your machine. This is why Singer cams are so much easier to locate. So 9 years, guys. A lot of sewing machines, and I've had a lot of white machines, but this is the first time that the cams were included with the machine, and I know that they fit. I actually bought, this was a year or two ago, I bought another turquoise white I think it was a 565 model, and the owner said, I think I have the cams and accessories, but I don't know what happened to them, and she lost them. Eventually she probably found them, but she lost my contact info, I guess. So they're floating out there somewhere, but they're not where they belong with the machine. So if you ever buy a machine that takes cams, ask the seller, are there any sewing things that went with this, any accessories? And if they say, no, I don't think so, they might have these and don't know what they are. So ask them, show them a picture. Do you have anything that looks like this, right? Or, or this, anything that might look like, because they're not going to, most people who sell these things, they don't know what a cam is. They don't always know that you even go to sewing machines. So it's kind of a mystery, right? You're trying to solve the mystery. But if you have a machine and it has the original cam set, be sure that you hold on to it, and you might want to label it in some way. Now, normally, when I get accessories with a sewing machine, I include them. I simply put them with the sewing machine that I'm selling, unless they're multiple copies. I don't give 3 zipper foots or anything like that. And you never know. Sometimes you get a bunch of stuff. Sometimes you get things in the accessory box. They don't even go to that machine. But that's okay. Don't toss them. You can find someone who can use them. But in this case, I'll be selling these cams separately. But I know what machine they go to, right? I'm going to make a label of some sort and put on there. These go to a white 563, or excuse me, 565, and it may fit others, but other white models. But anyway, why would I not just include these with the 565 machine if I normally do that? Well, a lot of accessories are not hard to find, and particularly Singer accessories. I rarely. It's rare that I don't put them with the machine, but I don't always have clients who want the cams, and I may have someone out there who has this machine who's really been looking for those cams. So again, just to emphasize here, if you have cams in these colors, never mind what color the box is, if they're shaped like this, if they look like this, and they are in these colors. Color can sometimes help you, maybe not always, but in this case, yes. Blue, pink, and green. Now, I don't know if they did other colors. Who knows? They were constantly fiddling around and changing the style and the look of things because they were so competitive back then. And again, that goes back to Singer, and one of the reasons I really recommend, if you're getting into sewing machine restoration, or if you are trying to decide, hey, I want to buy a vintage machine and restore it because I want to sew something with it, but I don't know what brand. If you're going to do that, Singers can be your friend because they are very repair friendly for the most part, and their parts and even their accessories were made for very long periods, and they're not hard to identify. So a little angle on CAMS there, guys. I know you might think, what the heck has CAMS got to do with sewing machine restoration? Well, as it turns out, a little bit. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you tuning in there with the channel. Stay tuned for more videos, and we will see you next time.